What is up, Mr. Mike Maynard? How are you doing this morning?
Wonderful today. Loving
Wh-
life.
Yeah, what are we're testing out today a potential project controls podcast sponsored by Stellic. Um, we have some titles that we're tossing around, right? I'm looking at a list. Uh, some ones that I think are looking good are, potentially two mics, no float,
I kind of
Mike,
dig it. Yeah.
Mike and Mike under control. I don't know about that one.
No,
Maybe
there's no control.
mic'd up on the critical path. So if you have a good name for us, let us know. We're open to suggestions. We'll come back with, we'll update the podcast based off that. So real quick, Mike, why don't you introduce yourself? What makes you able to talk about project controls?
Wow. All right. So I'm Mike Maynard. I am a VP over at Stellic, but I have a history in project controls, building different types of buildings, systems, processes, um, for different departments, different types of planning for different types of pharmaceutical processing, manufacturing processing, I guess everything from tech transfer all the way through into patient studies and beyond on the formal pharmacy side, but then also on the construction side, building the buildings, the processes to put in the building, getting those stood up, getting those qualified, um, taking R&D processes, getting that all the way into a finished lab. Uh, you know, just a,
Perfect.
yeah,
Sounds like you are our life science, our Stellix life science expert. Worked on a couple life science projects in the past, right?
yeah, one or two.
Perfect. And just real quick about myself, I'm Mike Bograd. I've been doing project controls for 20 years now. Supported, some life science projects like Mike, also supporting some data center projects, helped stand up a lot of programs. So, between the two of us, we have a pretty good experience in project controls. We're still very active in the day-to-day of project controls. So we're going to try to use this forum, to catch up. I like talking with Mike Maynard. He's fun to talk with. We can nerd out about project controls for hours, but we'll try to keep this, to a couple minutes. We know everyone's super busy. So Mike, what's been keeping you busy lately?
Uh, Really right now, it's a lot of integration with IT. What
What
we
does that
find
mean
is,
for everyone? Yeah.
yeah, like from my perspective, what I see is IT has deliverables that they pre-plan, but they don't necessarily pre-plan how all the information's going to flow together or work together. That's kind of one of those they reactive plan. So they go, oh, we get 6 months. Somewhere in that 6 months, we'll figure it out. But what happens when they don't?
What
Uh,
happens? That's a great
and
question.
that's kind of the big, what does that impact? How do you predict that? What are ways to kind of get ahead of that from the IT perspective? And I think that's kind of where a lot of projects fail is they don't bring in all the real SMEs early. They bring the ones they think are critical to the project.
So is this independent of if you're working with an owner or a general contractor, or is it
It really is
okay?
independent because IT hits both, right? Your construction side has to make sure that they're able to accommodate whatever IT's requirements are for that building. If it's existing, they have to operate as designed. If they're new, you have to know when you're going to turn them on, when ownership transitions, what the conditions of those systems need to be to start working or to, expedite some of the processes to enable other work downstream.
Sure. So it sounds like independent of if you're supporting a general contractor or an owner, we need to be messaging the IT team to make sure that they're engaged as soon as possible, um, to make sure that their inputs and handoffs are captured so there's no impact. What kind of impact could they possibly have on a schedule? How does IT drive a construction project?
Well, I mean, for IT, the closure of a lot of documentation, especially when it comes to like air handlers or room conditioning or, temperature, humidity monitoring, any of those that have a standard that they have to adhere to, if they're automatic or automated and controlled by a subsystem or another system, those have to be commissioned and qualified to release those spaces. So if your construction team is waiting to just make those final tweaks to adjust to accommodate like a commissioning. the space or a commissioning of a unit, now you're actually leaving a body on site for much longer than you anticipated. And you won't know when that's going to be available to close out until that IT portion tells you, okay, we have our system ready to operate and function and test those and collect the data from that to prove that it's operating the way it designs. So,
Perfect. Love it. Great answer. It was nice catching up with you today. We only want to keep these around 5 minutes. People are, again, very busy. I got another title I want to float out there for everyone. Two mics, one schedule. I think that might be it. I love it. Mike, it was great catching up with you, and we'll talk later.
have a great day.
See you later, bud.
Bye.